I definitely make the effort to sort of lead. Like what I don't want to do is say like, I don't know, what do you want to do? Like all the time. Now, it doesn't mean I do it with a harsh hand, but I just, I kind of told her last weekend, I'm like, hey, look, like I'll figure out Saturday, leave it with me. And she was like, oh, that feels great. But I also said, hey, Thursday's yours. Like, I'd love to do what you want to do Thursday. And she's like, are you leading me to lead? I'm like, yeah, kind of. And she laughed, and we talked about it quite openly. But I do know the younger set, there are some, teenage girls that are pretty, guys are a waste of time. Guys are, this and that. And, I mean, some guys are pretty difficult and some aren't, but we hope to maybe aim a little higher, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Dave here from the Breakfast with Manny podcast, which comes from when my co-host Emmanuel, also known as Manny, and I used to meet regularly for breakfast. When we were discussing the shifting landscape of manhood, mostly by sharing our experiences and our struggles, as well as my coaching courses and my entrepreneurial experience, we realized many men could benefit from discussing these topics. So Breakfast with Manny is going to explore the unseen patterns that sabotage men from realizing their potential, healing, and getting the life, sex, career, and health they want, leading to a healthy masculine life. All right. Hey, everyone. We are here for another episode of Breakfast with Manny, as you all know by now, exploring healthy masculinity. Manny, how you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal, brother. How are you?
I'm awesome because we have Henri Balit with us today. Henry,
how are you guys?
We're good, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Cool.
Thank you so much for having me, by the way. Seriously.
It's awesome to have you. So I think, before we start, we'll just say to everybody, like, please subscribe. We always like to say that.
Well said.
Super excited to be here. And today we're really exploring, Henry reached out after the very first episode. I don't know if you remember, I showed it to you, Manny.
We started this project, and at the beginning, you never kind of know the feedback you're going to get. It's like it's an experiment. And then Dave was really happy because he told me someone commented or messaged me about the video. And he was very hyped about it. So, yes, basically, I think you reached out saying...
I did. It was so funny because Aiden, his son, actually showed me the podcast at school. So we listened to it. I think it was like 34 minutes, whatever. Yeah, for sure. I'm just listening in class, and I see how his dad is so open about so many topics in his life. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's really interesting. Like let me go meet him and let me hop on the podcast. I'd love to go talk with him and learn more about you because, wow, seriously, how you were just super, how do I say, super. It was easy to you just to speak to everyone and talk about your problems, but not as it was a problem. It's a fact. It's what happened. You were open about it, So
cool.
I was like, yo, let's go. Let's try this out,
Yeah, thanks so much.
We talked about it, but it inspires when, particularly as guys, I think we're able to open up. And you're a good communicator too, which also helps, I think, to pass out the message and with the stories and stuff.
I try.
But it's good. But also because, and one of the reasons also it was great to have you here, but today it's because different generations sometimes don't necessarily listen to the same things or not as intrigued. 100%. And that's why one of the reasons we also want to get into the you and your circle. Like, is this things we talk about, yes or no type of stuff, So
of course.
I think we have a lot of things we want to talk about today, and I'm excited. I know you have a bunch of questions.
Before we hit it, maybe you could introduce yourself to our audience. Like, who is Henri Balit? Like, who are you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Henri Balit. I am a bit of everything, seriously. I touch a lot of film, designing, a lot of project management. Yeah, it's about me. I go to high school. Not high school. CGIP now. Oh my God, time's moving so fast. See, exactly. But that's about it. Seriously, simple guy. Seriously, just another normal guy on the seriously.
Well, I know you're not totally a normal guy. CGIP, for those of you that aren't based in, we're in Montreal, so CGIP is kind of like a gateway to university. So it's the equivalent of grade 12 you're in, right? Right. So I guess the first thing I'd like to say is like, you're just a younger guy. Like you're 17, I think, right?
That is, yes, correct.
And, when we go through, I think you have all kinds of, like you said, you have these shoots going on. I know you were in LA not that long ago,
yes,
right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So, I mean, first off, I guess, where do you think your fearlessness comes from? Like, where does that come from?
My fearlessness.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's from my father. Seriously. He's very fearless. And like my grandpa. So he started his own business, swimming suit company. And, he was always getting to the point, going straight for the money. He's got it. He has a plan, how to figure it out. Made my dad join him on his, adventure. So, and I think also my mom and her parents too, they had this like hydro company back in the day.
Yeah.
And my mom went to work for my grandpa as like the CFO, if I'm correct.
Yep. Okay.
So she has a lot of talent there, but just seeing them working on their business because they own the Ensete company, the soap company in Montreal.
Yep.
And, they've been doing this, if I'm correct, for like 10 plus years now. And seeing them work on this is such a motivation, I feel like. And I just want to go straight to my mom and say like, I did something too, you know, like look at me too, you know, but
nice.
honestly, it's just for my fun at the end of the day. I enjoy doing this and I find a pleasure in doing it. Seriously. Yeah.
Cool.
It's very fun.
Did your parents, by the way, particularly your dad, was it always he knew he wanted to be an entrepreneur and run the company, or that's something that he became
did.
down the line?
It's kind of complicated. And the one, he did multiple CGIPs. If I'm correct, he had 3 of them. Okay. And he always switched because, you know, he had a bit of difficulty in school.
Okay.
But then when his dad approached him and told him to come and join him in the business and he'll teach him these skills, he agreed with it. I was actually talking about this with my mom yesterday, how he doesn't have a university diploma. Okay. So he had a lot of difficulty once, you know, the company was sold and my grandpa was done with it, you know. Yes, he had a lot of money, but he wasn't ready to restart a new business. He was probably 70 by then, you know. Okay. So my dad was a little stuck for a big moment, but then my mom, you know, she decided to take on the unscented company and so on and so forth. Now we're all here.
Oh, cool. Exactly. You know, you're raising a really important point for a lot of guys and a lot of younger men, like kids that are 14, 15, 13, 16, like not everybody's made for school, right?
No,
and 100% not. No. And the other thing is so many successful people never finish high school, right? And, you know, I mean, my eldest son, he's got an entrepreneurial spirit, right? He's going through school too, but I noticed like he just has, like some people just have it in them. Did you feel like you kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit just all along?
It was really funny because last year when I did a Club Pink, where I launched a magazine for the underground scene in Montreal, I just feel like it came naturally because somebody had approached me to do it. And he was like, hey, can you just take these photos for this guy that had worked with Drake? I was like, fuck, okay, yes, of course. Cool. That's huge, you know?
Yeah.
So I started meeting the guy, 6-time platinum, no. We're in this like abandoned warehouse taking these photos, super sick. But I felt that like just that initiated something because one night I just did a whole plan on a pop-up on everybody selling things and unless having a fashion show. And I think that just sparked it all and just I was able to like push through. And what was cool is that with high school, most of my classes, I was working on that. My teachers were letting me work on it and making me pass the class, giving me less work and understanding that like, you know, I'm a level higher than others, you know, I'm more advanced. I don't want to be doing the schoolwork, you know, clearly there's an advantage in doing something else, you know, and it was a pretty successful event, you know, so I guess it's somewhere inside of me, you know, it's in my DNA also with my parents and also I'm not surprised.
That's pretty cool.
That's really cool. By the way, just out of curiosity, your teachers, you told them about the projects and they were like motivating you to like,
some of them actually showed up. My math teacher showed up to my runway. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very funny.
I feel like not every school or teacher would think about doing something like this. No. I also think a lot of positive attributes to want to do something like this because then it pushes someone to go explore maybe their strengths 100%. Instead of having to be kind of locked
outside
in a box.
The frame,
we talked a lot about being in a frame and a box. I feel like these can allow people potentially to work on something that can lead to 100% an interesting path.
I'm not good in school whatsoever. I took history, geography in Sec 5, not chimie physique. No, math, CST, not advanced math. Like very not smart in school, let's say. But when it's something that's like super interesting for me, I find myself with an ease to it, you know? So
you're describing like a flow actually. Like that ease sounds like flow states. You know,
flow
which
states,
is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing, man. So one of the questions we always ask everybody on Breakfast with Manny, and you know, I think you've probably heard of it, but there's a lot of talk around toxic masculinity these days, right? You know, guys being jerks or cheating or violence. And, you know, Manny and I are almost like searching and redefining and looking for healthy masculinity. Yeah. So when I say the term healthy masculinity, what's healthy masculinity to you?
Okay, it's funny you bring this up because when I first listened to the podcast, that's what another thing that ignited me to, you know, reach out because I have a very similar perspective as you guys, you know, like I was raised to be very respectful, don't touch whoever, always ask for consent, you know, so I feel that healthy masculinity is mostly, you know, being someone respectful and respecting somebody's boundaries, you know, towards a girl or towards somebody you like, you know, there's no point of forcing them to do something. And I saw that in my recent relationship. Of course I broke up, that's all right. But I was always gentle and I was always giving so much love. And if she didn't want to have sex or whatever, okay, who cares? It's not my main goal. I'm trying to spend time with you, you know, not with your body. Of course it's a plus, but it's a different, you know, thing.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, following up on that, I guess, you know, so your era, like, you know, being 17, like you were brought up consent, you know, we talked about big time and all those things. one of the things we talk about on Breakfast with Manny is, sometimes over consent can kill chemistry.
100%, 100%. Yes,
Yeah.
for
So
sure.
how do you balance that as a young man?
I guess to be honest, I do have trouble with it. I'm not able to completely control it. It is something that you learn over time, Of course that I'm going to respect it, but sometimes I'm going to do my own thing, it's myself. I'm not going to restrict myself or change myself for you,
Right.
So I don't know. I guess I have still learning that,
Still learning that?
Yeah.
Remember one of the definitions that you read of healthy masculinity
By
with
the
the group
kid,
thing,
yeah,
by the kid?
that
This
was
is something
amazing.
about kind of like being a man or
Without harming yourself.
without
or
harming
others.
exactly, which I think is
I love that.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think it makes
so
a lot
great.
of sense.
I think what I'm hearing, and maybe, I don't know, it'd be interesting to get your perspective. Obviously, I'm in a completely different age bracket,
Man, no.
more like your dad than anything. But dad's age, but whatever. I still want to come to your parties. Yeah, we got to get my invites. But this concept of men being a little soft, like almost too soft. And I know from a lot of the workshopping I've done with younger women being present, they're kind of like sometimes looking for guys to like be a little more
masculine,
a little more masculine,
yeah,
a little firmer, a little more leadership. And what do you see with your friends? So like, you're in a peer group, right? And I'm sure it's a mixed bag, but what do you see with like, what are your buddies up against, and what are your buddies up against in relationships? And
it's
what do
so
you see?
funny. I was about to bring it up. It's so funny to see because, I'm very surrounded of a multiple different friend group. I've met a lot of people in Montreal, and I've met people, and I'm not naming names or I'm not saying anything wrong, but I've met people that have done things that I don't think that are right, and that they're older than me, and some don't share their age with certain younger people. So, it's very super different crowds I met, and the artistic world is so mixed, and boundaries almost don't exist,
Right.
So that's a big thing. But let's say closer friends of mine, some of them are more players than others. Okay. Some of them are more relationship, and I'm very about also my emotions controlling me and your head controlling yourself. I'm very more like, I build an emotion when I'm with someone,
Yeah.
I feel that, like, by example, one of my friends, he'll let his emotions control him. He'll fall in love with the person he sees instantly, I feel that's a bad mindset, but it's also how he feels. That's how he is. Everybody has a different path, So it's crazy to think all of that,
Dude, out of curiosity, the people in your circle, the girls you've talked to, what's their perception of masculinity? What is it something that today, with all the conversations that I know, sometimes the circles can vary, because you mentioned the stage that you're going to, and sometimes there's groups that maybe are a bit more have a harder time discussing about these things. Yeah. Do you see still a struggle, for example, something that gets triggered when we talk about masculinity today? Does it depend on the group?
I guess it does, but I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
I guess it does depend. It's because there's certain people that are just like, super disrespectful towards this whole subject, and like, fuck men and all that. Like, okay, but what did certain guys do? Some of we are nice, like, not I'm here to be mean or anything. Yeah. But I think that, with some girls, I guess they understand, and I guess, like you guys said, they do want that firmness also and that controlness, because I feel that guys have gotten softer, like you were saying, over the years. Like recently, a lot of guys, like, they're way softer with girls. They're the one cuddling up with them, Gotta change that up. But, some girls do want that, but some guys understand it, some guys don't, and I'm still, don't get me wrong, I'm still figuring that out, Of course, I want to show my dominance, but if she wants to show it too, then, I'll share that mutually,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, quick story I'll just share with you guys. I started dating someone recently, and after a very long break, so I was a little out of practice, but it was interesting. Like, I do live by what I preach, which is, in general, I definitely make the effort to sort of lead. Like, what I don't want to do is say, like, I don't know, what do you want to do, like, all the time? Now, it doesn't mean I do it with a harsh hand, but I just, I kind of told her last weekend, I'm like, hey, look, like, I'll figure out Saturday, leave it with me. And she was like, oh, that feels great. But I also said, hey, Thursday's yours. Like, I'd love to do what you want to do Thursday. And she's like, are you leading me to lead? I'm like, yeah, kind of. And she laughed, and we talked about it quite openly. But I do know the younger set, there are some, teenage girls that are pretty, guys are a waste of time. Guys are, this and that. And, I mean, some guys are pretty difficult and some aren't, but we hope to maybe aim a little higher, right?
Yeah. Because what I'm trying to understand, though, because for sure it depends on the generation and just the individual, mostly, I think. People like different things.
For sure.
But, for example, Dave, your generation, I do feel, and from the feedback I've gotten from women is, they still like a guy who can lead, and lead does not mean being disrespectful, does not mean controlling. It just means, hey, like, this is what I propose we do. I have a plan. Let's do it. And, you know, bring on
And be
that
flexible
person.
with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And bring on to the adventure. Now, I've spoken to younger girls as well. My brother is younger, and in that circle is one. And some girls are like, I absolutely hate when the guy suggests something, and they're very less open per se. They think everything, or for them, what they like is exactly, you know,
completely equal.
Completely equal.
Yeah.
So that's where
how it
where I'm trying to see. Do you think it's a generation thing? Do you think it's a
100%.
more of a
Yeah, for sure. It has to. You know, over the years, we've seen it. You know, it changes completely.
changed.
You know, but you know, I recently traveled to Berlin and Amsterdam, but it's a completely different world.
It was
over
different
there.
there?
Right?
Okay.
No. See, bro. Big example in Amsterdam, I went to the red light district.
Yeah.
Completely different world. You know, like prostitution is legal over there, or whatever, decriminalized.
It's decriminalized.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to get my
No,
terms
that's
wrong.
fine. All good.
But yeah, it's crazy to think. You know.
Yeah.
And like people there, I don't know. I feel that like even the younger crowd's very more open. Or Berlin, my friends, one of my friends were talking to me. They went to this nudist beach, but everybody was nude. A group of friends they thought it was normal.
For them
you know,
it's normal, yeah.
But for us, you know, we see that as like, oh, why are you nude?
repressed. Yeah,
But
we're a little bit
but
repressed.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but it's crazy to think two different worlds on the same planet. You know.
Oh yeah. You know, it's funny. I want to go back to what you said, because you said something super important, and I want this to come out. Leading is an invitation. It's not a control. So it's just like in the dance. I'd like you to. I'm inviting you to come backwards with me, but you don't have to, right? So, you know, I think where a lot of women have issues is when they interpret it as control.
Yeah.
And it's actually just an invitation. Right. And so, but you know, I have to say, at least women closer to my age, like I've noticed, like if I say, hey, like pick you up Thursday at 8, dress casual, we're going to have a blast. Most of them are like, oh, I make so many decisions all day. This is great.
Yeah, of course.
Most of
I
them.
just want to go have fun and
they're
don't
open.
have to think about all that.
There's an openness to that. But there are women, you know, as we know, that are more closed, and for good reasons. That's where it gets to be a bit of a challenge. But it was funny. I think I might have told you this before. I was with a German lady at a program, and she was like so aggressive. We were talking about holding the door open for a woman.
Okay.
Right. And she's like, I fucking hate that. and I made the point. I just said, look, like, I'm not saying you're like a weak loser by holding the door open. My intention is I'm just holding the door open. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
trying to
not
be respectful.
I'm
That's
not
all.
making any statement here, you know. And to her, it was a real insult. And I see that as her interpretation, right? So, but I mean, chivalry. I don't know. Have you heard of chivalry? Like this old word.
Yeah.
Chivalry is like being a gentleman, right? Holding the
of
car
course,
door
of course.
open.
Yeah.
I assume at your age, that's not really. Guys,
Of course.
do you guys do that stuff?
Oh,
you
I'm
do.
so on top of
Oh,
it.
you are?
Always
Okay,
holding
cool.
it, whether guy or girl. For
Yeah.
me, it's respect. You know, you
Yeah.
gotta walk the door.
It
I'm in
comes
front of
also
you.
from the education you also said, right? You talk about your parents
100%,
with the
of
traditional
course.
side of being gentlemen, and
Exactly like that. I've taught my whole life. Open the door for someone. Hold it for them. Wait, even if I don't know them, if I'm in
Great.
front of them, I'm
Same.
gonna hold the door. Like, so I'm not gonna walk in.
No.
You know, let it close on them.
Yeah, we're all together here. Yeah.
Exactly.
I like that. I like that a lot. You know, we kind of touched on it. I think we should dive in because this is going to be interesting. Let's talk about me at 17, and I hate to say the
Please.
year, but I'll say it. I think it was 84. Ouch. That hurts. You were 17 in
2013.
13.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And
to
you're
think.
17 now.
Yeah.
So we'll go oldest to, we'll go this way. We'll go this way.
Please.
Sure.
So for me, 17 was, okay, a lot of drinking, a lot of hockey, because I grew up in Winnipeg, which was a hockey city. Nothing about consent. Like, we obviously.
Of course.
No online, nothing online. So paper porn, right? Like, one buddy's dad had Penthouse magazine or Playboy magazine, right? and I think at that time, most of the women were also natural. There wasn't a lot of augmentation. Some very, very little, right? They were all natural.
Of course.
And I'm trying to think how a nice way to say this. Not a lot of landscaping, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I went to a comedian at the Nasty Show. It's called the Nasty Show. The guy starts talking about sex in the mid 80s. He goes, "Yeah, I had to hack through the vajungle."
Back
crazy.
then it was
Back
more,
then there was none of that. I would say arguably, even though there were tattoos, probably less tattoos. I would say.
Oh, really?
Less piercings for
Oh,
sure.
really?
I'd say less tattoos probably overall, but I think being 17 and our age, like the biggest difference I think is just there's another big one, which is when I was 17, you know, someone else being like being gay or being homosexual was weird, like they weren't treated very well, right?
Okay.
There was no comfort. I mean, people still have trouble coming out of the closet, but back then, obviously,
Back then it was probably
84,
a
pretty
nightmare.
rough.
No, yeah.
Really
100%.
rough. And so like a lot of differences in, like I said, no porn, for example, right? Like, which I know we'll talk about in a minute. So my 17-year-old stuff was a bit, you know, I would say primitive at times. I think a lot of guys were not very sensitive to women. I mean, we still see that today, but in a different way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a bit of a wild time. Yeah. How about you?
From your generation to mine, I think that's where there's a huge
Major shift,
change. There's
right?
a major shift.
Yeah.
Of course, technology affects all the things you talked about, the magazines, all that stuff. Because 2013, when I was 17, you know, porn online was already the thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
like,
really?
Like, yeah.
Okay.
We checked today, and Pornhub was actually founded in 2007.
Yeah.
What?
So yeah,
That's
I know. I know it's crazy. You think it's like more reason. Yeah,
2007,
exactly.
yeah.
2007. So it was already common. Magazines was not a thing. It's all internet. But
Wow.
the aspect with women, for sure, or girls at that age, was already different. So I think Me
so.
Too happened after. I don't have the
A little
exact
bit
year.
after,
Is it
yeah.
after?
A little bit
But there
after.
was already a lot of, I think, more people wanted to be more conscious about everything that has to do with consent in specific.
Let me ask you, do you think your generation was the beginning of this softening we've talked
Oh,
about?
for
that,
sure.
That maybe has gone
Yes.
too far?
Yes.
Around there,
but
right?
but because I think every time there is something that goes too far, like for example, no consent, and then guys have no idea, and they're, for example, going to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
Then the other wave comes in of like, hey, you're all rapists.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so
That
so
makes
that
sense.
wave
Like,
that
no,
goes
come on.
that goes very extreme, and so that creates guys to be like, oh fuck, I don't want to be called a rapist, so now I'm just not going to do anything, and I'm not going to,
Right.
you know, and I'm just going to shy away
I'll
from
be
girls.
neutral.
Exactly, I'll be neutral. So I think that's what happens usually when there's like something people are not happy with, and that's how we evolve also as humans, just by finding the good balance and not being always those extremes, right? The rapist or the person who doesn't want to talk to anybody, who's like, if I talk to a girl, I'm gonna be a rapist. Type of stuff, you know?
It's funny that you bring that up because like I actually recently had recently that's Sec 4.
Okay, so
I had a little while back just before I was dating my ex. I had a rape rumor, you know, and everybody had came up.
no way.
Yeah. And I hadn't had sex by then, so
Yeah,
how was it even possible, you know?
Right.
But it was this girl. I
Wow.
was very jealous that I was trying to get this other girl, and
She made up that rumor.
yeah, she made up the rumor saying I
Oh my
had
gosh.
sex with someone invisible, and you know that didn't exist straight up. So everybody, all the friends of my ex came up to her and they were like, "Hey, you shouldn't date him. Be careful. He's a rapist." You know, like of course that came and affected me a lot. You know, in the beginning of the relationship, she had to check through me and had to slow down the process of us getting together. But that's all right. It was better to have more time on it. But still, it was like a speed bump, I could say.
Yeah.
Seriously, in the relationship.
Wow.
So it's crazy
That's
to think.
intense.
Yeah. I don't know, but I guess also in the porn and all today, it's different, so accessible. You turn out your phone and you look up one
Anything.
website. There it is. That's
Anything.
it. Personally, I stopped it. At
Good for
first,
you. Cool.
I remember the first time. When was I? I think maybe 6 years ago.
Okay. Oh, wow. That early.
I don't know.
Okay.
I first started seeing anything started sexual online. So like, I don't know, like a sexualized girl or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And then I think from there, I think it just experimented, trying to find out new things. Cause you know, it's such a thing that's curiosity drags you into that world. Cause you're like, I'm not supposed to be looking at this, but I want to know more, you know?
On this topic, you got introduced by people in your circle, or did it
Not
happen
even.
online, just searching,
Online.
browsing
You just
online? It
found
just
it?
happened.
On YouTube, actually.
YouTube,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Oh,
YouTube
wow.
was the
And you
first
start
one.
getting curious, and then you start
Yeah.
searching, and then welcome to
I
the
got
internet.
into the rabbit hole. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because speaking of rabbit holes, like I've heard, I don't know the stats. We'll have to look it up. But you hear that a lot of sexual dysfunction in like 20-year-olds because a regular woman can't really stimulate them, you know, because
they're used to
yeah,
that
the
porn
porn.
star that's
porn stars doing
the most
whatever,
unrealistic thing ever.
backflips
Yeah.
or whatever, right? But you know,
I haven't seen that porn yet, but I guess we'll have to.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, we'll put a picture on that one. Yeah, maybe not. You know. The
No, but
point-
it's the unrealistic expectation, as you're saying, when guys are just consuming porn nonstop,
nonstop.
and then they're gonna have actual real sexual relationship. It's like, what?
Right. It's not what they think. You know,
Yeah.
I'll share this with you. Like
Go on.
guys, not quite my vintage, another generation, like between me and Manny, like
Okay.
maybe mid 30s to early 40s.
All right.
I don't know how many guys that I've opened up a lot with,
Yeah.
you know, you mentioned opening up. So
Of course.
I open up with a lot of guys, and I've had guys tell me like, I'm addicted to porn. Like I masturbate to porn like every day. And so many bad things happen because of that. So they're shame. They feel ashamed.
100%,
right?
of course.
Shame.
The post nut shame, of course.
Exactly. And then they also feel they've also lost sensitization in their dick because they're hitting it too hard too often, right? So when they meet a woman, they can't really have sex. It's really sad. Like, do you talk to your friends at that level? Like, do you get that deep with a few of your friends?
Yeah, I'm really good friend. I've had this friend since like maternelle, high, like prior. How do you say that again? Kindergarten. Like I've been known him since kindergarten.
Wow.
So of course I've talked to him a bit about it. And, you know, to be honest, we're two different people, me and him. That's it. He's way more into girls than me. That's it. Yeah, he's way more pushing. Like he'll go text them and all. Like I'm he's like low key, I guess, an inspiration, but not in that domain really, because that's not how I function. But you know. He's good to look at. It's such a different perspective to see, you know, his eyes are so different than mine. You know, it's crazy to think all of that, but I had a few talks like that.
Okay. You have. Okay.
You know, I guess at some point, of course, I was watching some of it.
Of course.
But I just don't see the appetizing thing about it anymore, you know?
Yeah.
At some points it also just gets boring, you know?
Right.
But then that's where you're like, oh fuck, like what if real sex is boring?
Right. Yeah. Right.
This is it, see? Yeah. Of course, like I've had sex, but like, you know.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think.
Question, and again, intergenerational, but I'm curious about from your end, Dave, and you as well, Henry, but talking about sex back then.
Yeah.
How taboo was it? And I'm saying because between guys, I'm sure you always, like, that was probably already
it was
a
all
topic.
Posturing back then. Like,
but like,
we were we were mocked in the macho era, right? We're a bit like, you know, we're in the like, Goddard kind of the Goddard era, right?
Yeah.
You know, so sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, but I was saying like, these discussions between guys, but also with women. Would you talk to girls about sex? Probably not.
Not much.
From what I know, probably not much. I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Would you guys engage in talks about sex with girls your age, or is it still a little bit taboo, or it's kind of like
not at all?
Not at all.
No. Well, actually, no. It depends with the person. Yeah. Seriously.
Totally.
I was talking about that last night. I can tell you that. Yeah, with one of my very good friends. Okay. That's a girl. Cool. Like she was super open about it. Like, she's going through a lot right now, so I understand it too. But she was super open about it because we had to, like, you know, assess the situation. Like, I don't want to get too much into personal things, but just you know, understand exactly what she wants. Is it actually the sex? Is it the person? You know, all of that. But she figured it out anyway. But
well, I mean, I'll give you guys something like from the older chair that even as you get older. I believe any area of your life, you can still like kind of grow, learn, get better. And I think a lot of men, especially men, get into ruts with sex. Mm-hmm. They don't really study into, you know, different ways, energetics of sex, sex as not just a way to get off, but actually like just like maybe you'll have sex, maybe you won't, but like a lot of touching, a lot of kissing, a lot of like, sensuality versus sexuality, you know, and seeing where it goes. And I think, you know, I mean, like I said, when I was 17, it wasn't about that. It was about, you know,
well, it's just extremely physical, right?
Physical.
It's just about
there was no emotional component. Well, there was with the women. Some, I mean, I around 17, I definitely did some one night stand stuff. And you know what? You know, this is a bit off topic, but I'm going to say it. Something, and I spoke to this recently with someone. So everything shifted for me around that kind of when someone said to me once, like, you know, when you have sex with someone, your energy's in them. You leave a piece of yourself with them,
of course,
and they leave a piece with you. So be careful who you leave a piece of yourself with. And I was like, shit.
That's very fair.
And I think it's fair. I think it makes a lot of sense. You're like, oh shit, that's true. So, you know, and so would you say most of your friends at 17 have had sex by now?
Yeah.
They would. Okay.
Yeah. I think, most of them have had sex.
Okay.
A few haven't, but that's, you know, because of certain things. Like,
sure.
Like, one of my friends goes to an all boys school.
Oh, there.
But he had more difficulty. Till this day, he has very difficulties talking to girls. You know, I think that's a big impact going to all boys school.
It is. I remember the guys I went to a big university, and I had several buddies that went to an all boys school. God. I mean, there's thousands of people there, and I'm talking to every single one of them. They're like, "What are you doing? Why are you talking to girls?" I'm like, I'm talking to girls,
Yeah.
and they were like, they were vapor locked. They were just like, I don't want to do that yet. So it was pretty funny. But
In the era now of the Instagrams and the social media and stuff,
yeah,
That's different. That's game changing.
meeting people,
Yeah.
and showing an interest, let's say towards a girl. How does that work? Is it the DM life? Do people go face to face anymore? Let's say at a coffee shop and talk to someone. Does that ever happen?
The thing is, I'm not exactly the right person to ask this.
okay.
To be honest, I'm not the one to go and text you like on your story, hey Shadi, how you doing? How you know, no.
Slide into their
no.
DMs.
I'm not
Yeah, okay.
very, I've never done it actually.
Okay,
Never
great.
slid.
Oh, cool.
I'm very more, as I was talking earlier, I'm not someone that's going to lead. Like I'm going to look at a girl and say, yeah, she's pretty. I'm not going to be like, oh, I want her so badly.
Yeah.
I'm going to let myself meet her.
Yeah.
Get to know her very well. And if we have a similar energy, then yes, of course I want more. But, of course I'm going to think about the choice beforehand,
Yeah.
So I guess, yes, I've seen my friends do it. Of course, it's so easy. Some people are just looking for sex, are just looking like one night stands, Some people aren't, doesn't matter. But you can't tell the person online who you're going to go meet, what they are like. You're texting just a virtual version of them, a fake person,
But for example, the initial step to like say, I want to maybe go on a date or I want us to hang out together.
Yeah, meets in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have a lot of,
Love it.
I think my friend group keeps that pretty in person, all the time.
That's really
It's
cool.
good to meet the people, like it's a different energy being together and not being together,
Yeah.
It's two different
I love
vibes.
that.
No, I totally agree.
Well, we talked about that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I recently approached a woman in a coffee shop, which I haven't done in a long time. And what I thought was really cool about it was when we started dating, because we were dating, she's like, we don't even know how old each other are. And what was fun, she's really cool. I'm seeing her now. And what was cool was she's like, let's not even know for a while.
Okay.
For a couple of weeks, let's
That's
not
cool.
even know. And I'm like, that's fun. I thought that was actually cool. But it's so different when you energetically, you're not approaching some 2D fake list of attributes, right?
No.
It's really a lot better.
But, actually talking about age, it's funny that you bring that up because, I on a certain level, not trying to get caught on anything, but, at some point, age is also just a number.
Right.
At some
100%.
point. Of course,
100%.
under 18, consent and all that, but, I'm
right.
just saying that
You're right.
it's just age,
Well, I am older than her, and she's like.
How old is she? If you don't, actually, no, don't say that. Forget about that.
No, I don't mind. I'll say it this way: she's 12 years younger.
Okay, cool.
But I'm a pretty energetic person. She's
course,
like,
dude.
you have more energy than most
Right.
of the 45-year-olds I meet. kind of
Young
thing.
soul.
So,
You're a
young soul, because I hang out with Manny. That's why. But I want to switch gears a bit to like what. I'll ask you first, and then about your
Yes.
friend group.
Of
But
course.
what are some of the challenges you face, like as a teen, today's society? Like, what are you up against? What do you find is a real challenge?
Wow. That's a good question. You know what? I guess that, I don't really have any issues because I just do my own thing. So I'm not, onto that.
Okay.
But I'm so sorry. I don't know. Someone keeps calling me. It's like the
okay.
8th time. Okay, it's not
No worries.
important. But I guess it's not talking to girls. That's not an issue.
No.
It's not talking to someone new. That's not an issue. I guess it's getting judged is such an issue.
Okay.
I guess
Love
so.
that. Okay.
Your perspective about people. Also, keeping a good rep these days is very hard. People see you so many different ways on just the small things you do. I think that's the hardest part to like master.
Yeah.
You create yourself an identity online. Like personally, my Instagram, I completely redesigned it. You meet me, maybe I'll give you similar vibes, but not as much. I'm a different person.
Okay.
So I guess that's a challenge.
Feels like the getting accepted in today's era because of technology and social media probably went like exponentially to a larger reach than what it
Yeah.
used to be. Because I'll give you an example. Like maybe in your generation, you did something, a mistake, whatever.
Yeah.
They don't like you at your school.
Yeah.
You switch to a different place, and it's a whole different story. But now with the internet and online, it's like,
right.
like you have a personality. People know you. Just the reach is so much bigger and larger right now.
Yeah.
So I do feel like what you're saying about the reputation and feeling, judge and all that stuff
But
is.
it's the biggest part today. It's the biggest challenge, you know. Everybody's trying to be famous, making it on top, the first one, loved by everyone. Like, of course, that's what I'm trying to do. Everybody like
You want to fit. Yeah, everyone wants to fit basically to some extent. To some extent, for sure.
Yeah. I just do it because, you know, it's how I grew up. So whatever. People are like, oh, you're too nice. But no, it's just that's how I am. Like, you can be the same if you want to, you know. You don't have to be like how you are.
Yeah, for sure.
Choose who you are. But anyway,
yeah. Okay, that's cool. And what would you say I'll split it actually. What do you say your guy friends are up against? What do you see like or what do they come to you and say, oh man, I'm really down about?
No,
like,
fuck. It's because, you know, personally, I don't have much problem. So when people come up to me, you know, I try to understand the best that I can. And sometimes I do, you know, I'm able to give some similar advice or some good advice, you know. I guess, you know, some of them it's with girls sometimes.
Girls?
I see that a lot. Unless it's very socially accessible. I think that's the biggest part of it. Everybody's trying to always fit in. Just by doing one thing, you could be disliked by a friend group that you think that's cool, you know?
Okay.
Like, people don't like you just because you did something, you know? Like, it's very sensible on how you can, like, migrate yourself into, like, a new friend group, you know? It's extremely tough.
Yeah.
So people are scared to leave their friends, even if they're mean, you know?
Okay.
So that's another thing.
You can stay in a very toxic environment just to be.
But
But
you know,
we don't want to be alone, right?
I'm not saying that
for sure,
I am
for
in
sure.
a toxic environment. My friends are super nice, you know, but I've had
but
things that
that's
have happened. Exactly. Yeah.
No, for sure. That's
But for you guys in your generation, must be similar, no?
It is now. I mean, now that we're with technology and things like that, like
I would argue yours is probably. I'm not saying
was
like
less,
that
yeah.
challenge probably lies to other challenges, but that one I feel like
it
maybe
was
a lot
less
less.
until now. Like
Oh,
now
really?
that well,
Okay, that
now I'm
surprises
on
me.
I have a small presence on Instagram and Facebook, and you know, I would say like when we started, we talked about getting canceled. Remember? We're like, oh,
Is getting
fuck.
canceled
We're
still a
gonna
thing,
say
or-
something.
Yeah, that's a
stupid.
complete thing. Don't worry about
Right?
it.
So
Yeah,
we're like,
it's
we're
a
gonna
big
say
thing.
something stupid and we're gonna get canceled. And you know, at the end of the day, we made the decision together. We're like, you know what? We think this is gonna help a lot of guys, and if we get canceled in the process,
But the reality is,
hopefully
we
not.
haven't. The reality is, we haven't said literally anything that's I would consider
Too crazy?
anything. Yeah, it's not too crazy. I think
So
we're
far.
saying common sense things that a lot of guys resonate with. A lot of guys also in pain when to talk about, and
Yeah.
that's it. And if we get canceled for that, then oh well,
Bring it on.
Yeah, bring it on.
Exactly.
It is what it is.
But this is what I love about the podcast. You know, you guys are open about it. That's like what I want to do with the new project. Everybody's included, no matter
Yeah.
what. You know,
Yeah.
it's my opinion. I don't give a fuck. Okay, cancel me if you want to. You're just
Right.
looking for beef. That's
Right.
it. You know, like
Yeah, exactly.
I love that of you guys.
Thanks,
Seriously,
man.
you know,
Thank you.
I find it
Cool,
very
bro.
inspirational.
Oh, thank
Seriously,
you. Yeah. I mean, watching what you're doing at your age, I'm like blown away, man. It's awesome.
I appreciate that.
I think it's you know, this whole thing about getting canceled and all that. I go back to it. I've made this plea a million times. Like, disagree with my my statement, my opinion, but don't make it personal.
Exactly.
And it happens all the time. People are like, "Oh, you're a fucking idiot." No. I might have said something stupid, but don't let that define you for the rest of your life. You know. So it can get a little weird, but yeah, man, yeah, for sure.
Sucks. Yeah, I don't want to bring up anybody, mais comme Justin Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, là,
Trudeau, yeah.
si vous avec son blackface, like that's not like it's not horrible. Yes, it's wrong,
It's wrong. Yeah.
but it was like
Contextually,
yeah,
it
it
was
was so
a lot-
fucking
that was
bad.
during a sensitive era, right?
You know,
But that was
so-
the There was I think also a prime cancel time in which everyone would bring
Exactly.
out
So, you
things
know,
from the
no,
past.
no,
You did
no,
this
it's
when
just,
you were 19.
super stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
So there's always again the extremes that happen and
Exactly.
people going crazy.
Well, I talk to people about that. So, you know, it's funny, like the woman that I'm dating now, like we chatted about our past a little bit, right?
Very
and
fun.
she told me some stuff I will not repeat, just out
of course,
respect.
out of respect, I hope, of course.
She told me some stuff, and then she's like, "How do you feel about me after that?" I go, "Look at what I told you. Like, look at the crazy shit I did." And you know, we all have a past. We're all human, and we all deserve, to some degree, like understanding. I mean, obviously, away from things like rape, murder. You know, I'm not talking about that. I'm
of
talking about
course.
bad decisions,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
drugs, or you know, doing something stupid. But you know, it's funny. I think the real difference for you at your age, I do think social media is probably the biggest difference.
Oh, it's such
Right?
a
It's
competition.
so
It's
big
so
these
big.
days. Yeah.
It's horrible.
What advice? I mean, you're a very grounded, happy, moving ahead, purposeful guy.
Thank you.
Right? Inspirational. There's a lot of 17-year-old guys that are struggling.
Oh yeah, I see it all the day.
Like a lot.
A lot.
Yeah. What
It's
advice?
horrible.
What advice would you give them?
Be yourself, but that's the worst advice you could give to someone. You know, everybody says be yourself. Okay, fuck, Steve. What does that mean? You
Right.
know,
Who am I?
Hey, yeah, exactly. You got to figure out yourself. You know,
Yeah.
like in class, I see these guys, and nothing wrong with
Yeah.
nerd.
Yeah.
It's good to be smart, stay smart, you know?
Yeah.
But they, of course, have difficulties with like social skills, by example.
Right. Okay.
So I guess the best advice for everyone is, I guess, just, try to relax and be comfortable into your own skin. And that takes time, and be patient. That's the key to everything,
Yeah.
Give yourself time. Sure. I personally, maybe this is very bad advice, but try drugs, maybe, just saying. I'm kidding. But
We just got canceled. There it is.
I'm playing.
We manifested it. Fuck.
I think
No.
the era of anxiety also is a big thing, right? People like social anxiety who are so
course,
scared to talk
yeah.
to people.
Oh,
But it's also
yeah.
because it's so easy now if we're in a group and we got to meet people to just go on my phone. Like I'm just right now scrolling and I don't have to interact with other people. I'm so
I
scared of
know.
being rejected.
Yep.
And it'll be
But
socially
it's,
acceptable. You're maybe doing something important. People could think, oh, he's doing
Exactly.
something on his phone.
It makes it seem like you're not being rejected and you're fine. You're doing
True.
your stuff.
You're actually
people
okay.
are scared.
I got my likes.
People are scared. I think the comfort zone thing, I think applies literally to everyone, to any generation. When I was in CEGEP and I had a little moment in which I was scared to talk to people, I was like, oh, fuck, I'm being judged all the time.
Yeah.
Going out of my comfort zone, saying, fuck it. You know what? I'll do public speaking. I'll go out there. I'll meet people. That's what makes you kind of build that confidence. And after understand who you are deep down, and it's difficult at first because then you're stressed and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. I'm so scared. But guess
only
what?
that,
Life is going to punch you in the face.
It's
if
going
you
to
don't.
punch
You
you
get
in the
used to it,
face.
and I think it's such a beautiful relief once you
It is.
release it.
Yeah.
Like you make it on
The
top.
feeling after,
oh my
the feeling
God,
after
it's
is
amazing,
incredible.
Yeah.
That's great advice. Seriously.
Yeah, and
Don't do drugs.
and Dave,
Yeah.
that was a funny-
Forget the drugs.
Forget the drugs.
Dave. I mean, we talked about it already, but you going dancing. You did something
Right.
after, like,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. He basically danced in public
I
in front of
danced
people.
in front of a couple of younger women.
That's fun.
it was-
and asked them for money.
Yeah, but I know
people
it was,
don't carry cash, so it kind of.
I know it's something you probably would have not done before.
Never. No.
Because it's
I did
it's
it. Someone challenged me.
embarrassing and-
You know what it was? But there's rejection. There's embarrassment. There's so many things. And I was like, as I've gotten older, I've realized like I'm moving towards doing more things I'm scared of. I'm like, I'm scared of that. Ooh, I better go do that. And then once you overcome that fear, you that's where confidence comes from.
Exactly. It's a skill. I don't think it's something that's, in your DNA. It's a skill you learn.
It's a skill. I
100%.
agree.
Yeah.
Most people, it's a skill that you flex and you learn and you flex and you learn. So yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, we're getting close to the end. I'm just trying to think. There's one thing brewing I wanted to ask you
Please.
before we go. Is my kid okay? No, I'm
Of
just
course. I haven't seen him in such a long time.
No, I know you guys are
I
gonna hang
miss him
after
so
this.
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah. If he comes back in time, I'd love to say hi.
He's gonna say hi. Yeah, for
Of
sure.
course.
That's cool. How about you, Manny? Any last questions for
Dude,
Henry?
actually, I appreciate you coming in.
No,
and
guys, thank you for the invite. Seriously, this
Yeah,
is very fun.
appreciate
Yeah,
you coming in.
cool.
It's really cool to hear from your generation, and particularly you as an individual, because I think Dave said it, but we mean it when you see certain individuals that are building and constructing a route for themselves, and
Yeah.
it looks like you're on a good path. So I hope you continue like this, and let's keep growing, and please inspire the people around you to want to continue to work on themselves.
Thank you,
I think it's the
guys.
most important thing.
Very kind.
Really cool. And I think the last thing I'll say is, you said it. You have a few buddies, and I've done it, where women are the focus, right? You're just like women, and you forget that actually what really will help you in your life is to sort of have some form of mission or purpose. And it seems like you're on that. So it's
But
pretty,
of course,
pretty
you got to be
fucking cool.
careful with your emotions. It's a dangerous thing to have,
Yeah, absolutely. Got to manage them for sure, man. Well, thanks so much. So again, good to see you, bud. Henry,
see you as
No,
always.
thank you guys. Seriously, it's
And
very fun.
to the audience, I hope you enjoyed it. And again, having you come on and reach out.
Yeah, of course.
When you reached out and go, I love the podcast. I'm like, oh shit! Like
There's people listening, people watching this.
This super cool 17-year-old like my podcast. Like it made us, it gave us some confidence,
That's
which
cool.
we really needed.
I'm glad
So
it did. I'm glad
It
it
was super
did.
cool, man. All right, so don't forget to subscribe.
Yep.
Manny, any last words?
Let's fucking go.
I love it.
Beautiful.
All right, guys, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, see you, everyone.